Hey, this is Ralph. I want to continue working on that horizontal navigation menu, cascading menu basically, so when a person mouses over one of the main parent items in the menu, then this submenu will pop out, and then we can have pop-outs on the pop-outs and things like that. So this is where we left off, and let me just kind of run through this real quick. The very first thing we did in the last video was basically make the HTML and uniquely identify the menu and uniquely classify the submenus and things like that. So I've got a generic menu with submenu options and things like that. Started working on the CSS, and we really don't have a lot of styles on here yet. There's a few more to do. But I set some generic rules for the body of the page. I've got a reset rule, sets all margin and padding to 0, a little bit of color, a little font stuff there with the body, headline 1. So the rule for the body and the H1 are just aesthetics, has no function, no importance really to the navigation menu. Here's where we get to the good stuff though. I did set all of my bullets to none. Okay, I don't want to have any bullets on this menu because it's not going to really be a bulleted list. And I've set my list item width and I floated them to the left. This is basically creating for me a horizontal navigation menu. And then this was probably one of the most critical things we did here. Made the anchor tags into block elements, set their width and their height, okay, and line height. And this is really making the navigation menu buttons, okay. So that's why these are all kind of like buttons now, or behaving like buttons. So now we need to get in here and do some more stuff. And I want to start manipulating a bit my submenus. And I want to be able to visualize these a little bit better, and I want you to be able to visualize them. So I'm going to go back and put in some of those borders, okay? Borders are outlines. I'll put in some borders. And let's see. So I've got my unordered list here. So check this out. I'm going to put in a border of 1 pix solid red, okay? And just that little act right there is going to make it a lot clearer where our unordered list is. And it's a little bit tough to see because I just see the top border. So, but that's actually okay. That's going to be fine for us. But I can see that I've got one around over here, around over here. Let me actually change this out to an outline, see if that works out better. There we go. So now it's a little bit clearer. And I see the outline of my unordered list. So I've got my parent unordered list, then I have a little unordered list submenu, then I have another unordered list submenu, and this one looks thicker because it's an unordered list within an unordered list. So now I can start to visualize those a little bit more clearly. And let's go work on some new rules. And what I want to manipulate here is I want to start changing how some of my anchor tags look in certain situations. And I know I don't even have the positioning yet in the layout, but we're coming to that soon enough. So I'm going to go ahead and create a rule for my nav menu, sub1 anchor. So basically this is going to manipulate anchor tags that are within my sub1 that are within my nav menu. It's really simple here. And I'm going to do a margin top 3 pixels. Now I got these numbers from doing the finished work the first time around, and I'll kind of show you these numbers and I'll manipulate them in a little bit to really see what they're doing. And you're thinking, well, crap, how did you come up with 3 pixels? It's because I already ran through this once before. And you'll notice, let me just put this down to 0, refresh, and basically I just wanted to get some space in between these buttons, okay? But here is the critical step. I wanted space in between the buttons, but it's important that I don't put space on the list items, okay? So think about this for a second. Let me unordered list, # nav menu, sub1 list items, border 1 pix solid green. Okay, so now my list items are going to have green borders, okay? So it's important that my list items be touching each other, okay? Very, very important. So you might say, well, crap, well, why, if I want space in between the buttons, why not, you know, don't put space between the anchors. I'll do it something bigger, like 5 pixels, so it'll really stand out. Why not put space between the list items? And you don't want to do that, because now there's a point where my cursor can go from one list item and then it goes over no man's land, there's nothing underneath, and goes to another list item. And when you do that with these kinds of menus, it's going to make everything disappear on you because you need to have that hover action going. So that's why you got to be careful about how you do the spacing in between your list items. So I don't want to do spacing in between my list items. I want to keep it at 0. That's going to keep all of my list items touching, but if I want space in between the buttons, then I'll add some margin top or margin bottom, doesn't really matter, to my anchors. So my green borders are still touching each other, but I have space now in my list items. So that's the better way to go, okay? So that's why I have that in there. And let's see, and that's going to be for my sub 1, sub 2 anchors. Let's see, I'm going to put in some margin left on these. And the way I'm going to rig this, by the way, is my submenu 1s are going to show up beneath the parent item, but my submenu 2s are going to show up to the right side. So that's why I'm going to push these over to the right. So that's why I'm doing a little margin left on there. And I determined that 8 pixels look good, but I have to, those can be changed rather easily. I could make it 10 pixels, or something. So we can play around with that number in a little bit. Okay. There we go. So now I've got a little bit of an offset. I know you're saying, well, that's not right, but it's okay. It's getting there. All right, let's see what else we've got here. So I also want to change some background colors. So nav menu, list item hover, anchor tags. All right, so let's see, what have I got here? Looks like I have a child selector. So whenever I hover over a list item, I want the anchor tag that is a direct child of that list item to change to a different color. Okay, and this is how I'm going to be able to keep track of the parent item, the parent link, even when I'm on the child link. If I'm on a submenu, let's see if you remember this. If I'm on the submenu, let's say hyperlink 431, I am still technically hovering over the main parent list item of hyperlink 4. See, look at this. So if I'm on list item 431, I am still on list item 43, and I am still on list item 4. Okay, and that way I'll have a color path indicating exactly where I am in the navigation menu tree. Even more useful if it was a really long, complicated navigation menu. So that's pretty cool there, and you're going to be able to see the effect of that once it starts to get finished. If we looked at it now, actually you would start to see it. So check this out. I can go to hyperlink 4.3, so I'm getting that green background color. Now check this out. If I go down to 4.1, 4.2, or 4.3, notice my hyperlink 4 is still staying green. That's because I'm still hovering over that list item. Now watch this. If I go to 4.3 and then 4.3.1 and 4.3.2, there we go. 4.3 is still green and hyperlink 4 is still green. So basically I'm keeping track of the sequence, okay? Kind of like breadcrumbs in a way. So that's what that's all about. All right, and let's see, let's do a background color. We'll do a bright yellow here. Okay, I think you're probably getting this now. When I hover over a hyperlink, at the same time that I'm hovering over a list item, that background color is going to be bright yellow. So now, bright yellow, but look, it goes to green after I've done it. There we go. So that way I always know exactly where I'm hovering, but I also know where I've been. I know where I'm at, and I know where I've been. So it keeps me really directed, and that's kind of slick, so I can just run over here and change those to green. Okay, we're doing good. Those are a couple smaller rules, and obviously these aren't necessarily important to the function, but I think, just the little color coding change, adds some usability. And of course, if you're not using background colors, but you're using background images, you could do that too. So you remember the Apple navigation menu uses background images for all this effect. So instead of background color shifts, you could be doing background positions. So you have a background image set for all your anchor tags, and you just change background position on hover. So that would also be pretty cool. And let's see, I'm also going to start to work on my submenu. Okay, this is where I'm going to start doing some positioning. So I'm going to go to my nav menu, unordered list, sub 1. And for now, I'm going to do display block because I want to see where it's at. Position absolute, okay? So remember, I'm doing position absolute, but I did position relative a little bit earlier, okay? I did position relative on my list item, and that's an important step because I'm positioning my submenus in relation or based on their parent, which is another list item. And I've actually already got some numbers here, but I'm going to go ahead and put in 26 pixels from the top, 0 pixels from the left. So let's look at this. Don't really notice much of a change, do you? Okay, so just wanted to get, and basically, and this might be a time too where I could go back and say, all right, maybe the borders are a little distracting, so I'll take that border out and I'll take that outline out. There we go. And basically, I'm just looking to see that if my submenus are showing up in a good spot, okay? And I'm pretty happy with that. You know, I like where the submenus, so if I mouse over hyperlink 2, the submenu is going to show up right beneath it. Okay. Once you're satisfied with that, where am I? Here we go. Instead of display block, I'm going to do display none. And submenus will disappear. Bam. Gone. Okay? I'm going to put them back for a second, though. Now they're back again. Because I also need to position my sub 2s. Okay. Nav menu, unordered list, sub 2. This is going to be, let's see, I'm going to do, I'll do display block here also. Position, absolute. This one I'm going to do 0 pixels from the top, and I determined 121 pixels from the left. Let's see how that's looking for us. There we go. So you can see now when I hover over hyperlink 4.3, I want that submenu to show up right about there. And I don't know if you can tell or not. Is that, you can play around with, yeah, it actually looks pretty good. So that looks like it's lined up nice and neat. So and that's what I'm going for, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm content with that. And you know, how did I get those numbers? Trial and error, trial and error. Okay, so basically, I usually start when I position something. I usually start at 0, 0 just to kind of verify exactly where it is. So, oh crap, that's it's not in a good spot. It's a good spot height-wise, so top 0 pix seems good. So then I just start playing with this number, and of course I know that my list item is 125 wide, so that's really why I did 126. So it's right next to it. There you go. So it's taken care of right there. If I went back to those list items, border 1 pix solid red. There we go. I want to see those borders touching. Remember I mentioned how important that was that those borders touch? So, because I don't want to have a point where I move my mouse over space. I want to go from one list item right to another list item. So it is kind of important, but that's where I'm getting that number from. 125 wide, right next to it is 126. All right, so I'll get rid of that border again. Maybe I'll put it back later. All right, so things are looking good. All right, I can go back to these two rules, and instead of display block, I'm going to change them out to display none. Display none. Those submenus are where I want them. Okay, so now I've got my parent menu. Now I need to rig it so, let's see, when I hover over things. So I'm going to go ahead and do nav menu, list item, hover, sub 1. So when I hover over a list item, sub 1 is display block. Okay, let's see how that looks. Pop, there it is. There it is. Okay, so if you were just doing a one submenu, you'd be done. That's it right there. So basically when I hover over a parent that has a submenu, it shows up for me. Very similar. Unordered list, nav menu, list item. Actually, no, now I have to do this as sub 1, list item, hover, sub 2. All right, so let's see what we've got here. And of course, we know this is going to be display block. Okay, so if I'm hovering over a list item that's within my sub 1, within my nav menu, then the sub 2 that's a descendant of that is going to be display block. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that'll take care of it. So now when I go to 4 and then click on this, there we go, my menu pops up. Notice I can go from one button slowly to another button and it still stays visible. That's because I've got that, those list items are actually touching each other, so there's no gap there. So alright, so that takes care of my menu, and we're really almost at a finishing point. It looks pretty good. I'm going to make my font size a little bit smaller so things look a little bit nicer, I think. So I'm just going to run up here all of my unordered lists, and I will do font size of 9 points. There we go. It's a little better. Take care of that. And yeah, so already about 15 minutes. You know, there's one more thing I just wanted to show you. It's really pretty easy though. Now that I've got these lists here, it'd be nice to give a visual indicator to the web visitor that there is a submenu. You know, I have to mouse over it to see it. How do they know that there's a submenu under 4.3? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go modify my HTML real quick. And I've already got these entities for arrows, okay? So basically, I'm going to go to my hyperlink 2, which has a submenu, okay? And right after that, I'm going to put a span in there. Let's see, and I'll do a class equals D arrow for down arrow. And this is going to be, come on. Let's see, ampersand # 9660 semicolon. There we go. So this is it's going to be a down arrow in my span. Let me show you what that looks like. There we go. See that little down arrow there? Don't worry, I'm going to fix it in just a second. Okay. So I want to put that same thing, and I want to put that for my hyperlink 4 also, because there's a submenu there, so it's a visual indicator. And then I want to take a right arrow. I've got a right arrow also, so let me put this for hyperlink 4.3. Okay, so right after the anchor tag, I'm going to paste it there, but this is going to be my right arrow, and the code for that one is 9654. There we go. So now there will be a little right arrow. Okay, so I've got these arrows, but I also want to place them appropriately in the in my list items, so to speak. But that's going to be easy because, don't forget, I'm already doing position relative on those list items. That's how I'm getting my submenus to show up. So position relative has already been set for me, so I can go up to my style sheets now. What did I call these? D arrow and R arrow. Okay, so I'm just going to add a couple additional rules here. Really simple ones though. Okay. My D arrow is going to be font size 14 point. It's like a character. It's like a font, so you can change its font size really easy. I'm going to do position absolute, top 1 pixel, right 4 pixels. Let's see how that's looking. There we go. So, oh, that's kind of big. All right, so maybe just 11 points. And I'd also like it to be a little bit lower now, so oops, I got to do 11 pt, and maybe from the top, maybe I'll do like 5 pixels. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, I can dig that. All right, so that takes care of my down arrow, and I'll do an R arrow. Let me scroll up so you can see that better. And my right arrows also, actually I can copy a lot of this here. I'll just take all of that, paste, and I'm going to do the same font size, and in fact I might even keep that same positioning there. That might look okay. So let's see how that looks. There we go. Yeah, I might, it's a little bit smaller. So I don't know what I did there. So let me look at my font size, 11 point, font size 11 point. That looks fine. That is what I called it, R arrow, but I'm sure where my font sizes are a little bit off. But yeah, so it's basically there, and then I can, I think it's just because it's a different orientation, it's a different arrow, so I might play around with those font sizes and positioning, so I could say maybe a little further from the top. Actually, let me just try blowing this up a bit. 13 points. There we go, a little bit bigger. And then if I wanted to, I can nudge it down just a little bit from the top, maybe 6 pixels from the top. All right, I can dig it. All right, that's fine. So here is your horizontal cascading menu using pure CSS. So I present my user with a main menu. They do have visual indication that there's submenus for some of the items. If they mouse over those items, they're presented with the submenu. And if they mouse to any other submenus, they're presented with another submenu. So they've got all of their choices there. So have fun with this. Play around with it. A vertical menu is actually maybe just a slight bit easier than the horizontal menu. So try doing vertical oriented menus, add more list items, maybe play around with using background image and background positions instead of using background colors. All right, have fun.